Chosen one, look at you. Yes, you. Sitting here, carrying all that fire you've been told to dim, wearing all that strength you've been told to hide. Do you even realize who you are? You're not here by accident. You've been walking through storms that were meant to break you, and somehow you're still standing, still rising, still impossible to ignore. This is your moment. This is your reminder that you were never meant to blend in, never meant to shrink just to make others comfortable. You're not too much. You're exactly what this world needs. Every scar you carry, proof that you already survived what others couldn't even face. Every quiet decision to keep going, a declaration that you were built for more. So let them underestimate you. Let them misread you. That's where your power lives, in the places they never think to look. You are not just welcome here. You belong here. You are chosen, not because you played it safe, but because you dared to hold your ground. Now take a breath, straighten your crown, and step into the room like the storm you are. This is your stage, your story. And trust me, the best part hasn't even started yet. Looking for purpose and peace? Hit subscribe and start the journey. They mistook the calm in your demeanor for a natural inclination, unable to fathom that it was a deliberate construct. What they encountered was not the spontaneous unfolding of who you are, but a careful arrangement designed to uncover what they truly are. The warmth you offered wasn't a window into your spirit. It was a screen through which you observed theirs. It was never about harmony. It was about clarity. You let them reveal themselves while thinking they were in control. They assumed you floated along because you lacked edge, never realizing you were charting every undercurrent. While they monologued, embellished, and displayed, you were quietly taking note of every fracture in their story, every gesture that contradicted their words, every shadow in their intentions. The quiet you wore wasn't surrender. It was calculation. You kept your movement smooth, not because you felt no resistance, but because you preferred the game to stay orderly while you mapped the terrain. You never forgot the details they dismissed, the slips they thought went unnoticed. And now that you've withdrawn that crafted version of yourself, the disorientation has begun. The realization that your gentleness was strategy, not submission, strikes them too late, because by the time they understand, you've already moved far ahead, leaving no path for them to repair what they destroyed. They misread you entirely, thinking the softness in your tone implied agreement. What they failed to grasp is that you never showed them the unfiltered self. You revealed only what they could tolerate. You muted the weight of your presence so they wouldn't collapse under it. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. You weren't born tender. You became measured. The world trained you not to expose the full force of your truth, so you learned to adjust it into something more digestible. Not because you craved acceptance, but because you anticipated their fear of what lay beneath the surface. They weren't interacting with your essence, only the silhouette you allowed them to see. The pleasantness they mistook for naivety was, in fact, an instrument of observation. Every courteous word carried hidden intent. Every gentle expression concealed a depth of analysis. You weren't looking to belong. You were interpreting, archiving, decoding. The politeness they exploited was a lens, sharpened to cut through their facades. They thought you were malleable, someone to be maneuvered. They had no inkling that every move they made was being quietly deconstructed and cataloged. What they called innocence was actually vigilance. Now that the performance has ended, they're starting to understand that your composure was not an invitation. It was a barrier. You didn't cloak yourself in kindness because you trusted easily. You did it because you trusted no one. And now, unmasked, your real presence emerges, and it is nothing like the illusion they believed they controlled. If your heart overflows with divine love, now is the moment to let it shine. Click the super thank you button on YouTube and give $50 or more to help carry God's light to others. Your gift will bless not only your life, but countless others. You are part of His sacred plan. Your kindness may be the answer to someone's prayer. Share your blessings and honor His kingdom. May His grace guide you always. Patience was mistaken for incapacity, as though silence meant there was nothing beneath it. In truth, every quiet moment was weighted with calculation, not hesitation. Words were kept in reserve, not for lack of courage, but because unleashing them too soon would have scorched everything beyond repair. It wasn't fear that held the response back. It was foresight. Every breath swallowed was a deliberate choice to watch, to measure how far things would go before the inevitable. No one noticed the signals embedded in the stillness. Each withheld reaction was a message wrapped in restraint, an invisible boundary. The decision to stay composed was not a surrender, but a warning, waiting for the point when pretense would collapse under its own weight. They pushed harder, emboldened by what they thought was passivity, not realizing that endurance can be sharper than rage. Their probing betrayed a failure to understand. True strength does not demand attention. It lingers, unassuming, until provoked too far. There was no need to demonstrate what was already known deep within. That darkness, once lived through, teaches you to hold your own shadows in check. The quiet was not there to protect oneself, but to shield others from what could rise if provoked. What they interpreted as timidity was nothing more than a choice to contain what had already outgrown the need to prove itself. But that choice is not infinite. The figure who once held back, who let others stumble without striking, has begun to fade, leaving behind something no longer bound by their assumptions. And now, they are left to understand, power was never absent. It simply waited until they no longer deserved to be spared. Approval was never the goal. The real aim was timing. Every measured laugh, every easy tone, every patient pause served as a deliberate mechanism to delay the inevitable. Sweetness became a placeholder to stop everything from collapsing before the truth had revealed itself. The storm didn't wear a disguise to deceive. It did so to allow clarity. The soft facade bought just enough time for others to show their truest colors before anything irreversible happened. That gentle surface was never permanent. It was a crafted shield, not a personality trait. Nothing about it was accidental. The unfiltered force behind it was far too potent to release on those too fragile to withstand it. So a manageable version was given instead, something that let others feel at ease long enough to reveal what they were hiding. And they always did, unraveling without realizing they were being watched. What looked like submission was actually discipline. What seemed like naivety was an intentional pause before impact. It takes a particular kind of strength to suppress what's roaring beneath the surface. That calm was not born overnight. It was forged in years of learning when not to strike. But once the act wears thin and the mask comes off, there is nothing left to misread. That sweetness was never safety. It was containment. And now that it's gone, they face what was there all along. Not a change, but a revelation. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. What they called gentleness was nothing but restraint finely sharpened into a tactic. There were countless ways to dismantle them, countless openings you could have exploited. Yet you opted for composure, not because they earned it, but because it gave you the freedom to maneuver unnoticed. That calm created stillness, and in stillness, nothing escapes attention. Every slip, every petty remark masked as humor, every careless reveal of their own insecurity became clear. You saw it all without blinking. Composure was not your limitation. It was your shield. While they staged their charade, you were laying quiet groundwork. The silence was not to keep the peace. It was to keep the field empty long enough for you to study their rhythm. They mistook your quiet for surrender, imagining themselves victorious, while you silently moved the pieces into place. They assumed you lacked the courage to strike, never realizing you were simply waiting until they walked deep enough into a trap of their own making. The softness they leaned on, the courtesy they took for granted, it was never about their comfort. It was your control. Striking too early would have revealed your position. Waiting let them build their own collapse. Piece by piece, you handed them the tools to dismantle themselves without even knowing it. And when the ground shifted, they were left stunned, confused, unable to trace when the balance tipped. That's the weight of real restraint. It doesn't shout, it escalates the stakes. And without so much as a raised voice, you watch their world unravel, not because you destroyed it, but because they did, thinking your silence was forgetfulness. From the beginning, you caught the way they assessed you, reducing you to something fragile, something easily molded, and you allowed it. No objection, no rebuttal, no need to correct their assumptions. It was better to let them draw their caricature. Better to let them believe their own fiction. While they grew comfortable inside that illusion, You were busy deciphering their tells, the cracks in their confidence, the fragile spots they thought invisible. If your heart overflows with divine love, now is the moment to let it shine. Click the super thank you button on YouTube and give $50 or more to help carry God's light to others. Your gift will bless not only your life, but countless others. You are part of His sacred plan. Your kindness may be the answer to someone's prayer. Share your blessings and honor His kingdom. May His grace guide you always. You recognized how far from reality their story was, and yet you fed it deliberately. You nodded as they underestimated, smiled when they cloaked insults in jest. Let them believe they held the upper hand. Meanwhile, you assembled the evidence, observed the patterns they tried to hide, documented the faults they thought nobody noticed. To them, you were predictable. To you, they were transparent. The kindness they encountered was more than a disguise. It was a catalyst. It brought out exactly who they were when they thought nobody was watching. And now, with the false narrative shattered, they flounder, unable to reconcile who they imagined you to be with who stands before them now. They failed to see that you never belonged to their version of events. You authored your own. The moment you stopped playing along, the ground shifted beneath them, leaving them trapped in a conclusion they never anticipated. The quiet figure they thought they understood was never real. It was the setup, and the reckoning. That was always the plan. A delicate presence was never meant to suggest emptiness. It was a deliberate test, disguised as openness. There was no shortage of strength behind the soft gestures, no lack of clarity in the quiet demeanor, only the intent to see who could encounter kindness without trying to tarnish it. That gentleness was not extended as a gift for them to keep, but as a lens through which their own intentions came into view. It was never a reflection of them. It was a trap set to catch what hid beneath their surface. Those who thought they were the ones crafting the story have now found themselves snared in the very web they believed they controlled. They overlooked how meticulously you moved, how each act of grace was another thread woven into the snare. While they performed courtesy for the audience, you tested the depth of their character, and they failed repeatedly, never suspecting that every boundary crossed was being documented, every slight recorded with precision. They assumed kindness meant vulnerability, that warmth meant an open invitation to take. But nothing escaped your notice. Every disregard, every distortion of your words, every petty grab at control added to the evidence you carried quietly. And now, nothing is hidden anymore, neither from you, nor from themselves. Because standing beside someone who never stopped showing genuine decency only highlights the cracks in their own facade. What they feel now is not regret. It is the terror of being seen unmasked. They realize too late that you never missed a moment of who they really were, and that you allowed them to reach this point willingly. The pretense is finished. Both masks are gone. What remains is stark and irreversible. Not everyone will withstand what comes next. Calm was mistaken for docility, as though carrying silence meant carrying nothing at all. They watched the composed figure before them and assumed they were safe to trample, to dismiss, to manipulate without resistance. What they never realized was that behind that quiet exterior was someone who both kept and guarded the peace with fierce intention. Forgiveness was not extended because the wrongs went unnoticed. It was given a space for them to step back before it was too late. But they misread that allowance, thinking they could continue without consequence. They never understood the force behind that quiet confidence, a presence that not only carried light, but also enforced limits. And when those limits are crossed, that presence does not plead, it acts. They assumed you would crumble, that your patience was a weakness to exploit, that you would allow harm just to avoid conflict. But they forgot the truth. You do not sacrifice your own essence to protect a fragile illusion of peace. You defend it, even if it means cutting through what threatens it. The side of you they were unprepared to face is not chaotic, but exacting. A precision honed over countless trials, waiting for the right moment. You did not arrive looking for confrontation, but you have never feared it either. And now the ones who moved in secrecy, thinking their shadows went unseen, are discovering how wrong they were. Every subtle betrayal, every whispered maneuver has been marked and remembered. Now the quiet figure they dismissed has stepped forward in full, and they are confronted by the very reckoning they thought they avoided. They thought they were striking at someone defenseless. They thought robes meant weakness. They did not know robes can also conceal armor. And when the call to act comes, it is not reckless. It is deliberate, unflinching, unstoppable. The calm was only the beginning. The strike was always waiting, and now it has arrived. That gentle exterior was never the full story. It was the final lock on a door few had the sense to stop rattling. Every laugh, every quiet nod, every gracious gesture was a deliberate pause, a thin layer keeping what lay beneath from rising too soon. The smile they once felt at ease with no longer brings comfort. It unsettles them now. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. Something behind it has shifted. The air feels heavier, the room colder, because they can feel it too. The inevitable change approaching. What they failed to grasp was that kindness was never your limit. It was a checkpoint, a chance for them to choose differently before consequences arrived. You gave space, offered time, extended quiet opportunities for reflection. But each disregard, each careless overstep chipped away at that fragile line until the quiet fractured. Not with an outburst, not with spectacle, but with a subtle, irreversible shift in presence. The sweetness that once signaled safety has turned into something sharper. No longer grace, but resolve. Decisions have been made in silence, and they are the last to realize it. What truly unsettles them is not what you've said or done, but the way you've begun to remove yourself with calm finality, stepping fully into your own strength without needing to explain. They do not fear your fury. They fear your certainty. Because once that turning point is reached, no apology, no manipulation, no performance can draw you back into the role they wrote for you. This version of you does not bend, does not shrink, does not stall for anyone's comfort. Each small kindness had been a quiet countdown, each patient gesture a marker of how far they could go. The count is over now. What stands before them is not the person who absorbed their chaos, but the one who outgrew it completely, unshaken, unbothered, and already walking away. Softness was never given because they earned it. It was offered because sinking to their level was never an option. Every graceful word, every withheld reaction, every calm response was never about excusing them. It was about preserving something far more valuable, your own center. They wanted to provoke, to drag you into their mess, to watch you abandon your own principles just to match their noise. You refused, not because you didn't notice, but because you understood the stakes. They mistook your restraint for weakness, failing to see that it was strategy. They were playing for immediate satisfaction, but you were playing for something far beyond the moment. While they threw barbs and made moves in shadows, you kept your hands clean, not for them, but for yourself. Each choice you made was an investment in your own integrity, not a favor to theirs. And now that chapter has closed, not because you ran out of compassion, but because it is no longer required. The kindness they once depended on has dissolved, not out of spite, but out of completion. The quiet generosity they exploited has been withdrawn. What they are left with is not your punishment. It's the consequence of their own actions echoing back to them. They struggle to understand why you no longer play the part they grew comfortable with, why the warmth they took for granted has vanished. But the truth is simple. Your season of patience has ended. Every gentle choice had been a ledger, balancing who you are with what you will not allow. And now, with nothing left to reconcile, the softness has been replaced by clarity. Not because you changed, but because the transaction was finished. You never stopped being who you are. You simply stopped giving it away for free. They mistook your calm for softness. They looked at the quiet weight you carried, the patience you extended, and assumed you were harmless, never realizing you were forged to withstand storms and dismantle them if needed. Moving with care does not mean you cannot strike. Offering understanding does not mean you cannot deliver reckoning. You were never fragile. You were built to confront. Even as you chose gentleness, there was never a moment you lacked force. Every step was intentional, every silence deliberate. You were never sent here to soothe their illusions or play along with their pretense. You arrived to break patterns, uncover what was hidden, and interrupt the machinery of harm. You were not meant to shrink for the sake of false peace. You were meant to challenge whatever thrives in secrecy, to cut through masks and topple what was never meant to stand. They wanted you pliable, agreeable, easily dismissed, but you were never crafted to fit their expectations. You are not here to entertain comfort. You are here to deliver what is necessary. Sometimes that takes the form of gentleness. Sometimes it shakes the ground beneath them. And when the earth moves, it is not rage, it is precision. They never understood that the glow they saw in you was not passive. It illuminates. It uncovers. It disrupts what it touches. You did not come to tiptoe around what was broken. You came to take it apart and rebuild. Now they find themselves unsettled, but they should not be surprised. The signs have always been there. The quiet certainty in your gaze, the weight you carried without words, the unspoken readiness in your stance. What they never realized is that not all light is meant to comfort. Some of it exists to burn away what cannot remain. And when that moment arrives, it does not wait for approval, nor does it hold back. You are not carrying permission slips. You are carrying a purpose. And now that you have stopped muting yourself to keep them at ease, everything around you begins to shift. That is no accident. That is what you were always meant to become, and it does not hesitate to set things right. They latched onto your gentleness, not because they valued it, but because it allowed them to keep pretending. Your quiet strength created a cushion where they could stumble and misbehave without confronting the damage they caused. You didn't confront them outright. You didn't reveal their hypocrisy. Instead, you stood steady while they convinced themselves they were better than they were, mistaking your patience for proof of their own decency. They weren't drawn to you for the warmth itself. They were drawn to the way it kept their shadows undisturbed. You never had to point a finger. Just being near you made their actions feel heavier, though they couldn't admit it. The comfort you gave them was dangerous because they mistook it for a shelter rather than a chance to grow. They used your softness as a hiding place, somewhere they could keep being careless without ever paying the cost. But that version of you, the one who quietly excused, who held the weight for both of you, who swallowed the tension to keep things calm, has disappeared. Now the quiet in the room feels sharp, and the air feels colder. The absence of your kindness speaks louder than anything you could say, and they feel it, unraveling piece by piece. Without your presence cushioning the truth, they're forced to face what they avoided all along, themselves. You never needed to strike back. All you had to do was remove your shield, and the reality they were running from rushed in to meet them. The guilt they buried now floods the space you once protected them from, and it suffocates. Your grace was the veil they hid behind, and now that it's gone, nothing disguises what's left. What they once called harmony was your restraint. What they once called love was your discipline. Now that both have been withdrawn, they stand exposed, and they finally see the one thing they were never prepared to see, their own reflection, without your kindness to soften the edges. They mistook your gentleness for distraction. They believed they were clever, slipping in sharp remarks, cloaking deceit in charm, thinking you remained unaware. But what they didn't see was that every gesture, every subtle cruelty only exposed who they truly were. Your calm didn't conceal their behavior, it highlighted it. Every choice you made to respond with composure instead of bitterness, to offer quiet understanding instead of retaliation, wasn't a sign you missed what was happening. It was a deliberate chance for them to notice themselves in the way you stood. But they never looked close enough to recognize it. Your restraint was never submission. It was a contrast so sharp it cut them without your saying a word. What they mistook for softness was a surface they could never replicate. That quiet strength unsettled them, though they couldn't name why. Your steadiness reminded them of the parts of themselves they'd long abandoned. Your discipline revealed their impulsiveness. Your patience uncovered the games they thought they were winning. They assumed your kindness meant ignorance, but it was simply clarity. Clarity they didn't want to meet. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. You didn't need to unmask them. They accomplished that themselves, simply by standing beside someone who refused to distort, diminish, or pretend. And now that you've withdrawn the grace, withdrawn the stillness, step back into yourself completely. The emptiness of their own reflection fills the space. There is nothing left to hide in, no warmth to blur the edges, no presence to cover what they didn't want to confront. You didn't stay to punish. You stayed to remind them what they could have been, and when they mocked it, denied it, and projected onto it, They revealed far more than you ever needed to say. Took advantage of it. And now that the mirror is gone, so is their disguise. They are sitting with their own mess now, fully exposed.